Well, yeah, you should smile over there because you coming in with the bad news this week.
Oh, I do. I have the worst news. Mercury, well, not the worst news, but it's not good news. Mercury, the planet of communication, every 90 days stops its forward motion and goes backwards and stays backwards for 3 weeks, and it ruins communication. It has no meeting of the minds. It rules misunderstandings, miscommunications. You put the word miss in it, and that's Mercury retrograde. So it went Saturday, and it's retrograde for the whole rest of the month. So I say we should go on vacation. But for all 12 signs, it starts out retrograde in the sign of Cancer for the first 2 weeks. So I thought I would let people know where they can expect the miscommunication and the misunderstandings. And Geminis are going to hate this more than anybody because it's in their second house of money, and so all I can say is make sure your figures add up, make sure that your deposits are clear, make sure you know what it is that you're signing for, what you're agreeing to, because it's misunderstandings about money, which is always crummy. For Cancers, they personally get misunderstood because it's in their sign, so they may say one thing and mean another, or what you hear them say is not really what they mean, and for them it's going to cause problems in their interpersonal one-to-one relationships. For Leos, they're probably going to hate it the worst because it's in their 12th house of their own undoing. So this is where their own words get hurled back at them. So they have to really be very careful about what they say, how they say it, who they say it to, because if anyone's likely to be misunderstood, it's likely to be the Leo because of that. And it's almost like shooting yourself in the foot kind of deal. So I'm always really careful with Mercury retrograde. I'm a Virgo, and it's in our 11th house of hopes, wishes, goals, and objectives. And this is where you think you've got a team working with you to get you what you want. It turns out you're going to end up doing more work and not so much gratification at the end of it. So for Libras, it's in their 10th house of career and public standing. And so this is fits and starts with their professional things, their career. And they have to be really careful not to volunteer for stuff that they can't possibly do, because that's very likely during this retrograde. They'll get called or tasked to do more than they're being compensated for, which nobody ever likes. For Scorpios, not really bad for them. It's in their 9th house of the law. Legal matters, educational matters, important matters at a distance. If you ever wanted to slide something by Scorpio, I got to tell you, Mercury retrograde is the time to do it. If you ever wanted to put some paperwork through that was not quite kosher, that's the time to do it. For Sagittarians, it's in their 8th house. Much like Geminis, they're going to be crying and moaning about money, and this has to do with the amount of money that they owe. This has to do with unearned income. This is not in their pocketbook per se, but it's the resources they share with other people. And again, they need to, if they're expecting to get a loan or get paperwork cleared, that's probably not going to happen until the end of the month. For Capricorns, it's in their 7th house of partners, and partners are going to be unusually sensitive for Capricorns, and they normally don't sugarcoat anything, but they really want to try to do that with their partners this time because partners are a little more sensitive than they should be. For Aquarians, it's in their 6th house of work. If I was an Aquarian and I was having any kind of medical test done, I would wait until after the retrograde before I actually believed it. I would get a second, probably even a third opinion. And it's likely to be some sort of confusion going on in their work and responsibilities. Not their professional, but the actual act of doing their job is likely to be done over again and repeated. For Pisces, great place because it's in their 5th house of love affairs, children, sports, amusements, and pleasures. And who doesn't want to do that stuff over again? It's the kind of thing where it has to do with love affairs and relationships and the love principle. For Aries, it's in their 4th house of home, and they have things at home that they have to fix. They probably have water issues that they need to deal with. And Aries, I can tell you, don't do it half-heartedly. Do it all the way or not at all. And then I would not break ground. I would not do any kind of construction that was not already in the works. And then for Taurus, as the last sign, the pace of their day-to-day living is about to pick up, and their big challenge is to not do things over again, not to be redundant, not to do something 2, 3, 4 times before you finally get it right. So, and it's also has to do with contracts. I'd be really careful about anything I signed or anything I agreed to during this retrograde until it's over. So that's why I say it's a good time for all of us to go on vacation would be my idea with Mercury retrograde. So,
well, thank you for that wonderful news.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to mention the full moon, so I'm out of here.
See you next week, hopefully with better news.
I hope. Never tell. Always a pleasure, even with bad news.